Uganda, Silver Pearls front lawn for a much anticipated session, An Unsuitable Boy, presented by ZEE Entertainment. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Karan, Johar, Poonam, Saxena, and Shobhaa.
Good afternoon. I have never seen this enthusiastic a crowd at the Jaipur Lit Fest, and it's for you, Karan. Forget Nobel laureates. The main man is here. Not true, thank you. Not true, says Karan. But it's a wonderful, wonderful response. I can see a lot of fans in the audience and people who are just curious to know about the book, which is An Unsuitable Boy. Karan has very sportingly declared this afternoon that he is willing to talk about anything. He said, ask me anything. So let me, anything. Anything, Karan.
Go for it, Shobhaa. And who better than you to ask me anything?
Anything. So let's start with Poonam and your association and the way the book came about. I'm extremely proud and honored to be publishing this under my imprint, the Estee book, the umbrella of Penguin Random House. And the wonderful thing about Karan, who Poonam and I have both known well as a friend for the longest time, was how spontaneously he agreed. He just came on board and said yes. And we did tell him that it is his life story, and like all good life stories, it has to be the truth and nothing but. He was complete, like he is tonight, this afternoon. He was just open, receptive, enthusiastic. And mind you, in a country which produces one of the largest number of films in the world, our material, our books representing Bollywood and regional cinema are pretty limited when you consider how many books there are. I mean, each person in Karan's place anywhere in Hollywood would by now have maybe 5 books and more as they go along. So it's a privilege, and thank you, Karan, for making the time to come here. You do know they've hired extra security just for you.
Where are they? As long as they're good looking.
So let me just go straight into the book. And there is an incredibly disarming and wonderful moment about your childhood where you say the worst word to hit you as a schoolboy was the word pansy. So do you want to talk about that and the first time that happened when you were about to debate?
Well, I think the kids, I grew up in South Bombay, and it was kind of what I call a snooty neighborhood. And everyone there was like kind of completely against the grain of Bollywood. So it wasn't cool to say that your father made Hindi movies. So even me, like I kind of like had to kind of bite the bait of that and say that my father was a businessman. That wasn't so much the problem, but I was an extremely effeminate child. Like I didn't know what to do with my hands or my feet. It was just the way I was. And the word that used to scar me, and you know, when the kids, especially the building kids, were more sensitive because they'd grown up with me. But you know, it's with kids that came from other buildings and, you know, other schools and the other domains really around us, and they would use the word. And I think I discussed this at length with Poonam, and it's a large part of my childhood, is the word pansy, which was not used today at all actually. It's not a this zamane ka word, but it used to be used a lot in the 80s and the late 70s, which was a word for being effeminate. And that bothered me to no end. Of course, I have no problem with the fact that I was that. I don't regret who I was, and I never will. But that word used to scar me at that point. It made me feel like I was different from the other boys. And that used to I used to come home with that baggage. And I still remember those nights that actually were difficult because of that one word. Of course, later on in life, I grew to realize it meant nothing, and that I was who I was and I had to be who I was. So there was no looking away from that.
And Karan, you also said that since you were an overweight child, everybody used to sometimes say, you know, fatty or words to that effect, and that upset you a lot.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, I was stupid. If you were fat and someone called you fat, I don't know why it should have been a problem. I mean, because I had a combination of Punjabi and Sindhi parenting, and they really, if you have a Punjabi father and a Sindhi mother, you should not believe them. Because when my father used to call it puppy fat, and he said, "Chala jayega, kya hai?" And my mother was just blinded. They both thought I was the most beautiful child in the world and that I had a little puppy fat. And my father insisted at 15 that if I lose that puppy fat, I can be a Hindi film hero. And I didn't know how to convince him that there was no way I could have been a Hindi film hero. I didn't have the personality, the body language, or the persona to pull that off. But he thought I was the best looking child in the world. So, you know, even though I was called fat, and I was called, which I was 150 kilos plus, and still it used to be, I was like, he called me fat, but someone had to tell me, you are fat, lose that bloody weight. But that no one said to me, unfortunately. It was just, I was just given more food when I cried.
Poonam, how difficult was it for you to get Karan initially, to establish a rapport? Because a book is only as good as the rapport that's established between the person who's getting you to share your life with the world, actually, because you don't even know who that book will eventually go, who will be reading it and how it will be received. It's an act of enormous courage. And of course, knowing Karan and being a friend, he trusted you enough with aspects of his life that he's not shared previously. And how did you make that initial breakthrough, and how did the whole process start with him? Because you live in Delhi, Karan lives across the world, actually, not just in Mumbai, but he's a global citizen now. And with a very, very hectic, very busy schedule, how did that happen? Because it's important to know the mechanics of how a book like this gets put together.
I'll answer the question, and then I'd like Karan also to answer the question. So I think what happened was that living in Delhi was probably a good thing, because this is not a magazine interview that I ring him up and I go and I spend 20 minutes with him and I come away. The idea was, and even for Karan to sit and look back at his life and reflect and think and remember and recall and look at himself and his life in a very unsparing sort of way, I think he had to also get into the zone, so to speak, you know. So we would never meet for less than 2 hours, and he would make sure that he was completely free and undisturbed. And while we were talking also, I could see him, you know, things coming back, and it was actually very intense. And I think after the end of every long session we used to do, I think he used to feel quite drained and quite tired, because it was quite emotional, I think, the whole experience of reliving moments of his life. And I think you have to push a little. You have to sometimes, you know, hit at a raw nerve, maybe. You have to go there, and you want to be as gentle as you can. But you have to do that, and, you know, all credit to him that he never sort of brushed anything away. He didn't say, oh, I don't want to talk about this. He was completely open and very, very frank. So I think it was those very intense, long sessions where he just spoke
So which was the rawest nerve? Which was the most difficult part, the sharing of which aspect of your life?
I'd like to say that it was amazing to do these sessions with Poonam. Poonam is somebody I've known for various years, and there are very few members of the media that you kind of strike a rapport with, and then that builds into a relationship. And I think Poonam and I have known each other. As soon as Shobhaa told me it was going to be Poonam, I was ecstatic because I felt that there was a sense of trust almost from the history we've shared. And she's right, the sessions that we spoke at 2 hours long each were really intense and were more like therapy. Like, I'm not in therapy at all. Maybe I should have been a couple of years ago. But it's something that I felt like Poonam became like my unofficial therapist. Because when you talk about your childhood, your problems, your trials, your tribulations, you do touch many raw nerves, because we've all been through, like, it's very easy for the outside for people to think you've had a very cushy, nepotistic existence. You know, my father was a filmmaker, I'm a filmmaker, what struggle could there have been? But there are personal struggles, you know, there are struggles about you as a human being, there are struggles, you know, there's so much conjecture about you as a person, your sexuality, your orientation. There is so much said around you that, you know, sometimes it kind of becomes either you go out externally and kind of express yourself, or you go internal. And I think I was somebody who kind of internalized a lot of my fears, my insecurities and complexes. And it takes a book sometimes to make you realize who you really are. And I encourage most people in the public face to actually experiment with actually putting out a book, even if no one really wants to read it, because it's a really, really self-elevating experience. To me, this entire process of this book, I don't know how it'll be received, and I'm sure it's in great hands with Poonam and Shobhaa at the helm of things. But to me, it was a deeply cathartic and a hugely therapeutic experience.
What would you say was the hardest, toughest thing for you to reveal? Is it the...
Which I don't know if I have yet revealed. But I think we touched upon a lot to do with my personal life. Well, what do I say? Revealing in today's times can land you in jail. So we're in a tough country to speak about your personal life. And I feel really sad about it, because being a public figure, you're expected to kind of helm a certain movement, talk about freedom of expression, which is the biggest joke in the world, I believe. Democracy is the second biggest joke, I think. I really think that how are we democratic? I mean, how is there freedom of expression? I'm a filmmaker and I feel bound at every level. You know, be it like to do with what I put out on celluloid or what I say in print. I feel like there's always like some kind of a legal notice awaiting me. You know, everywhere I go, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared I'm saying something in Jaipur. I don't know who'll file a case when I get home, you know. And so I've become like some kind of an FIR king now. I mean, literally, I mean, it's all happening around me. I'm still like, we finally won the national anthem case, which was 14 years ago. 2 days ago, I no longer have to apologize for putting the national anthem in my film in an emotional, proud manner. So it's like that, you know, Shobhaa. It's like we eventually have to say what we have to with so much clever policing. Fortunately, language is a great thing. It makes you say things and yet not.
Do you want to tell them what you did about 3 or 4 days ago in Mumbai, which was your way, I guess, of protesting against the beef ban in Maharashtra? It was a joke?
How do you know that? Oh God, word does get around.
Why don't you tell them about it? It's out anyway.
Is it really?
Yes, Karan, it's out. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I've been kind of out of it then, I think. Well, it was a joke. It was really a friend, I don't want to mention any names unless the names are already out. Friend who kind of was a major prankster. And we decided, and he kind of, I think, does stock a fair amount of beef at his house on the sly. And we kind of set up this entire, you know, the MTV Bakra, all of you must be aware. So we set up like 2 cops who would come to his house and to scare him that, you know, we're going to arrest you because we believe you're stocking beef in your fridge. And we did that, and it was a successful prank. He was horrified, and he was all set to kind of call anyone he knew who could have helped him out of that situation. And it was the biggest, we've recorded it, and I've never seen his face that white in my life. It was amazing that we had this, but can you believe that this is actually meant to be a joke? It should have never been a joke. Unfortunately, that's what it's amounted to.
Did you participate as actively as some of your colleagues in the tolerance intolerance debate? And if you didn't, did you stay away for some reason?
Look what happened as a result of anyone who said anything on it. I mean, you know, I make movies, Shobhaa. I'm fighting megalomaniac movie stars every day. Do I need to fight the governance?
Censors?
We are fighting them with every film. I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. Like every time a dialogue draft of a film comes with me, we have a legal department that reads the dialogue draft and highlights what will be like not allowed. And invariably, all I have is a highlighted script. Because, you know, you can't write anything. You can't say anything. And we are supposed to be, as I said, democratic.
Do you feel more confident about this with Shyam Benegal and the committee?
Exceptionally. And I was so thrilled to know that there was a committee formed that, you know, that Shyam Babu actually is helming. He's such a prolific, such a progressive mind that, look, we are all responsible filmmakers. None of us really would want to put out stuff that would truly cause damage to the DNA of our society that surrounds us. We don't want to do that. But there is so much we have to say. There's so much I want to say. I'm sometimes exploding with opinions and ideas and ideologies that I can't put out on celluloid, which is really sad and unfortunate. So when minds like that helm the movement, it's very heartening to know that, you know, there is somebody listening to us somewhere and we're really begging for, like, you know, for progressiveness.
There's a wonderful line, Poonam, that I'd just like to share with our many readers out there, viewers, readers, fans. Karan says at one point, "Today I can say, yes, films are my life. I still feel different, but those childhood fears have long gone. I'm sorted in my head, and I have a sense of belonging and coming home to movies." And that was very hard initially, wasn't it, for you, when you were growing up in an atmosphere that didn't quite encourage your passion for movies? You also talked about Karan as a young boy locking himself in his room and dancing in front of a small mirror to Bollywood tunes, and his parents not being completely comfortable with any of it.
I think, as he said, he grew up in this really snooty South Bombay neighborhood where Hindi films were not cool, and he also tried to suppress that part of him. And but there was, as he said, this hysterical Hindi film fan always lurking inside, waiting to come out. And well, it did one day. But yeah, I think secretly you were a fan of Sri Devi, and you know, you danced to film songs.
I don't really blame my mother if I was dancing to Tofa Tofa in the middle of my drawing room. It was not something the average boy in the neighborhood did. You know, or suddenly breaking out into some kind of a, like, where every time, like, I saw this film Sargam and Duffly Wale, but I was only dancing to Jaya Prada's part for some reason. And my father somehow never found it abnormal, because he would say, Karan, Duffly Wale pe nacho, and to show his friends that I could dance, but I was only dancing to Jaya Prada's part. And the Duffly was always just put aside. The Rishi Kapoor part was just annulled. And for some reason, nobody thought it was strange.
Isn't that wonderful on so many levels?
I think the innocence of my father's understanding of various things was a reason why he thought that me doing the Duffly Wale dance was something that was normal.
But Karan, your parents were not keen for you to go into films, no?
Not at all, because my mother was a firm believer that it's a very unstable profession. She was really keen that she felt my father was a very inadequate businessman, and that I was doing the same, and that I hadn't inherited her Sindhi genes, that I had no understanding of monies and what to do. So I remember I got into an arts. I had a very high percentage in my ICSE, which was the 10th board exam. I had 88%, but I wanted to do arts. And so I got into St. Xavier's College of Arts, and 5 days later I walk into my home and I see my mother weeping. And I was like, why are you crying? And she's an educated, affluent, well-read, well-traveled woman. And she was like, because you're doing arts. So I was like, why didn't you tell me before? She says, I couldn't muster the courage because you're doing sociology and psychology. And how can I have a son who's doing arts? So I was like, and because I was impressionable at that point of time, she didn't realize that it had affected me, that she was so upset by my academic decision, that I decided to then join HR College of Commerce and Economics. And it's odd because I joined that college, that's the people I met in that college is what drove me to an artistic atmosphere anyways. So I suppose what's going to happen will happen. But it was, I don't think that she she understood, and that's what I tell parents today. It was not that she was being insensitive to my need. She was worried about my future. But today, I think parents are so much more understanding of their child's dreams. And I always tell parents that. I'm like, please allow them to nurture their dream. They don't need to do what your husband or your father is doing. They don't need to. They must pursue their passion, because you can make an entire career of it. If I sat behind my father's, he also had an import-export office. If I just sat behind that desk, I would have been a miserable person today. But I did, even if I didn't make the kind of money I perhaps have made, and I've been fortunate, I would have still been satiated doing what I love to do. Even if you're paid less, you have to do what you love to do, because money cannot be the be-all and end-all of your existence. It should not.
I remember once, Karan, you had shared a particularly poignant story with me at the time when your own father was really down and out. He'd been very successful, and suddenly his films had flopped. Things were tough, financially and otherwise. And the film industry can be a very cruel place. There is really no space for failure, and there's no space for losers. And I remember you're telling me that from being escorted to the front row at various awards functions, suddenly your invitations started to, well, almost disappear. And when you were invited, you were sitting in the back row with your parents, and that hurt you terribly. And there was maybe there were one or two people who showed your father and your mother the respect that they once did, regardless of whether he was a flop or a success, and those are the people you value the most in your life and in the movie industry. I'm not naming them, but maybe you'd like to share that with the audience.
My father, Shobhaa, gave about 5 failures in a row as a film producer. Those days, it was not, there was no studio funding. There were personal financiers that gave you money. And then if you were not be able to return that money, you had to sell your jewelry and house. As dramatic as it sounds, it's what happened. Like, we had to sell a flat, my mother's, my maternal grandmother's flat, so much jewelry. When there was a film called Muqaddar Ka Faisla that bombed in 1987. And then we made a film called Agnipat that met with no commercial success. So we actually went through really trying times. It was those times that I realized that, you know, as much as we call our industry a fraternity, it's not. The ground reality is that it's not. Failure is not a welcome guest in our world. And unfortunately, today I think people are a lot more sensitive, because I think times have evolved, and I think so has the human core. But then I remember there were premieres that we used to get invited to. And when you got a row, A to Z was the general trajectory of where you sit. But certain screens had A starting from behind, and certain screens from A starting from front. So when you were given C, you didn't know if C was right at the back or right in front. So I would call the cinema hall and check. And if I thought it was right in front and they were really embarrassing seats for my parents, I would go. You know, but I would tell Papa, don't go. And I would never tell him that, I would never say that the seats were bad. It was a code we had. I would just tell him that, Papa, I'll go and see this movie. That meant, don't come, the seats are not good. And we built this into an understanding. But I did see him upset sitting at home, even shed a tear. And to see your father cry in front of you sometimes, or shed a tear when he was not a part of a film event or a party of a friend of the past who's no longer inviting you anymore. It's a very heartbreaking sight. When you see success and then you see failure, it's probably worse than never seeing success at all. I think that having that rug just ripped off your feet is a very, very heartbreaking feeling. And I've seen that. That's why today, I think that's what's grounded me as a human being, because I've seen my father go through that for over a decade and more. I've seen my mother, I've overheard their conversations where they didn't have the money to send me out. You know, I didn't want to study in India. I wanted, like all the kids around me in Malabar Hill, because as I said, I grew up in an affluent neighborhood. But I remember that putting all that energies back into what I did best is work in my city and try to do the best with my environment. But they seem like, you know, whenever I speak through my films, people feel like Zoya Akhtar and I spoke the other day and said that we are kind of cursed for our first world problems on celluloid. It's because, like, oh, you don't make real films and you don't know about real people, and that's not true. We make films that are aspirational. We sell dreams, and that's also a big part of a filmmaker. So I don't know why we're ever criticized for that. We've all been through a journey of loss, of love, of emotional meltdowns. But it doesn't mean that we express that on celluloid. Sometimes just selling a dream, even if it's a rich one, is good for the soul, and who doesn't like a good soul moment?
You know, Kuch Hota Hai, Karan, was a game changer on many levels. It transformed young cinema and broke away from the formula. And it also, I think Manish is with us this evening, Malhotra. And all of you young, absolutely fresh thinking collaborators produced a film that shook up the film industry a lot. You changed the way the film looked. And you've spoken at length to Poonam about it and its making. And Poonam, do you want to tell the audience a little more about that chapter and that phase in his life? Because after that, nothing was the same again for Karan.
I think one of the most magical parts of the conversations we had was Karan's entry into the film industry as an assistant with Dilwale Dulhania and then making his own film, Kuch. But Kuch was really special because it was his first film. His parents were really nervous. They didn't know, what he was going to make. And then he made this film which turned out to be this huge hit and which was a trendsetter and a game changer and everything, as you said. And it was actually, it's a very joyous and emotional part of the book. I don't know if you want to share with the audience. Do you remember you said how you couldn't even attend the premiere because you were inside in a little room because there was this death threat?
Well, it was really strange. We were releasing the film on Friday, October the 19th, 1998. And on Monday when we were making the premiere invites for the film, my mother very proudly, who actually on day one of the shoot of the film had asked me whether I know where to put the camera and whether I still have, and she told me run. I said, run where? I mean, I can't leave my own house. And the film said, she's saying, if you don't want to make this film, run. And I said, how can the director just run away from the film set? So she said, I'm just worried you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, but she, by the end of it, was really proud, and we were doing the premiere invites, and that's when there was a whole underworld zone at that time that was calling all the filmmakers. And I had gone down to drop my aunt, and I was wearing a red t-shirt. And someone from the underworld called my mother and said that your son's wearing a red t-shirt and we're going to shoot him right now. And my mother has, of course, panicked and got a semi-cardiac arrest. By the time I came up, she just held my hand, pushed me into the room and locked me in for some reason without really telling me why I'm locked in. Till the cops and my dad came, and I was banging the door like a Hindi film heroine, like get me out, because she was so nervous. Finally, when she got out and, I was told what has happened, we were all petrified. And she looked at me, she said, I hope this film flops, because we are simple middle-class people, we don't want these underworld threats. So I was like, but, I don't know what to do. So the premiere happened, and the cops were all around me, and I was put into this room because they were like, you never know who's really at the premiere. So I was getting this blow-by-blow account from my assistants who would come say, oh, they clapped here, they laughed here. And at the end, the entire industry stood up and clapped at the end of Kuch Hota, and I wasn't there to see it. And it was really quite sad. And that very night, we took the flight to London because we had to get away. So I wasn't here for the first 3 weeks of the film's release. I was getting calls, like I remember the first Tuesday of the film, released on Friday, and Aditya Chopra, and I went to call him from the phone booth downstairs, and I had all my £1 coins I was putting in just to ask how the reception of the film is. And he told me, where are you right now? I said, I'm here, I'm standing on Marble Arch. And he said, do you go buy yourself something big? Your film's a huge hit. And I started weeping in the middle of that phone booth because I was like, say that again. He said, your film's a blockbuster. I said, people like it. He said, I don't know if they like it, but they're coming to see it. And I went up, and meanwhile, my mother, who had become like Jaga Jasoos, who was staring at everybody from the window, thinking that everybody in London wants to attack me. And I didn't know if she was really happy or not, but we had a little bit of a family meltdown moment. When I told her, I said, Mummy, the movie's a big hit. So she's like, oh my God, you think that underworld man will call us again? And I was like, so it was a lot of Kabhi Khushi, Kabhi Gham going on in that moment. But at that point, I realized that, oh my God, I have a career. Like, I did it. At 25, I made this film, and I'm so excited that now I don't have to kind of go to my plan B. It was like, it was something for a confused, nervous, overweight, doesn't know where to go child. I finally had a career, and I said, okay, even if I mess up after this, at least they'll remember me for my first film. I think I messed up a fair amount after that, but I'm still only remembered for Kuch Hota Hai, but I'm still proud of it and really excited.
But Karan, how different is the industry today? Is it harsher, more professional, less warm? What is the change since you made Kuch?
It's so much has changed. It's detached. That's the word I have to use. It's corporate, it's detached, it's over ambitious, it's not personal anymore. When I started making movies in '98, there was the slight shift had begun. But when I hear stories of the 60s, 70s, and 80s about how people made movies, even before that, the golden era before that, the warmth, the personal nature of things, the interrelationship between filmmakers, music composers, artists, the fun that everyone had. We don't have that. There's a lot of artificiality. There's a lot of like corporate governance that makes us more hardcore, more cutthroat. I don't feel like you can make the kind of relationships that people did in the 40s and 50s and post that and subsequently. Today, I think if you have one single friend in the movie industry, you should be fortunate. Someone who really loves and cares for you and is as positive about your positivities. You should be blessed. It's not a country, it's not a, sorry, well, it is both ways. It's not a country or an industry of friendships. Unfortunately, and I don't say that as a cynic, I say that as a realist. And so if you're scoping for close friendships and intimate bonds in the fraternity, then I think you're looking in the wrong place. Unfortunately, there's nothing anyone can do about that. That is the order of the times. If you try to break that, you might lose the race. So it's a bit of a dichotomy, because while you want to handle your personal life, you don't want to let go of your professional status or existence. So all I really tell people is like work. Keep your eye on the ball. Keep your focus on what you're going to achieve and put out there as content, because that's the only thing that will last. Who's whose friend and who slept with who and who loves who, and all that is so seasonal. Relationships are like mangoes, they come and go.
So how many friends do you actually have in the industry? Friends?
That's a trick question. It's like a trick question, because I don't know. I don't have a number. I have experiences. So I count those, I don't count those. I count the past much more than I count the present.
And from the past?
Many. I don't know how many of them have survived. Some of them have fallen off the wayside. But I like to treat those as memories and not give closure to anything, because you never know who comes back into your life.
Are you referring to Shah Rukh Khan?
Shah Rukh Khan is very much a part of my family. He's not fallen off any wayside. He and his wife and family are pretty much family. Yes, I don't deny there have been ups and downs, but the connect is so strong. The love that I have for him and his family is so deep that I don't think anything can take away from that. Every relationship, like every family, goes through its own fair share of hurdles, but it doesn't take away from the core love that exists. There are others that are definitely not in my life anymore, but Shah Rukh and his wife and his 3 children are a large part of my life today.
I have to just say one quick thing here. When I used to go and meet Karan sometimes at his office, I mean, I'm sure you've been to the Dharma office, so what he's talking about, this whole warmth, etc., it may not be there in the rest of the industry, I don't know, I have no experience, but I can tell you that in Karan's office, it's very easy and nice and fun, and Karan will be wandering around and somebody will wander into his room and then they'll cut a cake because it's someone's birthday, and it's
and the best
just
sandwiches in
very,
Mumbai from Candies
yes,
are always a phone
There's
call away.
a lovely atmosphere and mood and very relaxed and a lot of fun. I don't know, I'm sure it's still like that.
So who would you say, Karan, right now, there have been super hits like Bajirao Mastan. You didn't have the best relationship with the maker of Bajirao Mastan, but I think it's all good now. And a lot of the film industry is about relationships in flux. And you've dealt with all of it fantastically. I mean, he's one of the most popular people in the movie business. And you have talked about relationships in the book quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there have been ups and downs. Like Sanjay Bansali and me have been friends, and then we were not, and then we hugged and made up, and we are behaving like really like 2 spoiled children. It's okay, we're fine. I think I'm too old. I'm 43. I don't want to fight with anyone. Ram Gopal Verma's fights were just for fun. He's also, I think my fights with him also nobody's interested in anymore. And I think the 2 of us, I think, are completely cool with each other. So I'm looking for a new filmmaker to fight with. it keeps the energy going, I think. You know, it keeps you in the news. I don't have an affair that I can talk about, extramarital that I can really boast about. I don't know. I don't have children that I can pose with for the paparazzi. I'm me and my black jacket that goes everywhere. So I think I'm looking for scandal. And if scandal doesn't knock on my door, then I will go and approach it on my own. Because that's the way it is. We're in the business of show business, and what the hell? I want to be in Pink Villa every day. You know, I want Miss Malini to track me on a daily basis. So I really want that. I love this industry. I love the public eye. I love walking on a red carpet. I have no problem with it. I like to pose. I like to pout. I'll give my left profile because Gautam Rajadaksh told me in my first photo session that, darling, don't show your right to the world. So, I mean, I love it. I love this movie business. I'm such a proud part of it. I feel like, why should I be apologetic? I don't want to be apologetic. I want to enjoy what comes with the territory. I don't mind. I'll go to the opening of an envelope if you invite me, as long as the media exists.
What is it about the movie business that you don't like, that you'd like to see changed?
What I don't like delusion. I think it's a big disease. Like, I think everyone thinks more of themselves than they really are. And that bothers me to no end. When I walk into a meeting, I want to give them like an email and say, no, you are not such a big star. A. Secondly, you are charging too much, you are retarded. 3, your agent stinks. 4, your office stinks as well. Like, I want to say things, but the bubble in my head is just put aside, and I have to say, hey, you're a movie star, you're great. I love the fact that you're fantastic. But I don't know, I sometimes feel like I want to send emails to people and tell them what they really are. Because yes, I'm not the most talented filmmaker at all, far from it. I'm not the slimmest person, far from it. I don't have the visual sense Sanjay Bansali has. No, I don't have it. I don't have the storytelling Rajkumar Hirani has. No, I don't. But what I have, they don't. And you have to know.
And what is that?
Oh God, that'll be like blowing my trumpet, and that's one thing I don't want to blow.
Go ahead. We have a whole orchestra to back you up.
No, look, I have a sense of joie de vivre on celluloid that has its urban syntax that I think that I crack quite well. I have an understanding of deep layers of human relationships because I come from a messed up mind sometimes. So I get complexes in human dynamics that I've shown in films like Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, and probably in my coming film, Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, that will walk the grey path where it comes to human dynamics. But I don't have certain, like, I know that these are things that I can own. But what I can't, and I don't want to, because I don't think I have those qualities. And that's why when people say, oh, when will you make a film like Anurag Kashyap or like Dibakar Banerjee? And I'm like, I don't know how to. Like, I really don't know how to make a film that is dwelling on a path that I don't understand. Like, when I saw Gangs of Wasseypur, yes, I saw, and my mind was blown, but I was like, I won't reach that location only he shot in. You know, forget doing that. You know, it was like, I won't know how to get there, and why should I apologize?
But you participated in a collaborative effort.
Bombay Talkies.
Bombay Talkies.
It was my idea of getting that critic's thumbs up. I'm like, I'm going to make an art film. So I'm going to make a film that is going to be simple and completely hard-hitting in my way, and I'm going to try. So I was playing the Dibakar, Zoya and Anurag game. And I was like, listen, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I also want to be part of this gang. Why should I feel alienated? I did that for my own self. Like, I said, why not? I should try it out. 27 minutes is not so tough. I don't think I can make a full-length feature film like that, but it was okay as a short.
Did you beat them at their own game, do you think, in that movie?
Dibakar's was better than mine. Mine was second best according to me. I gave myself the silver medal.
But you did create a young new star who hasn't gone very far after that. He was fantastic in that movie.
Saqib, yeah.
Was
I mean, a lot of people, there was some kind of conjecture about like, oh, because he played a gay boy in the film, that is, I mean, that's redonkulous, which is my new word.
The conjecture being, would you like to spell it out?
That he played gay, that's why he hasn't managed to kind of, you know, kind of get more like kind of interesting. But I think he's a huge talent, and I think he deserves all. And he's doing a couple of interesting films now. And I was like, how can you just generalize the fact that an artist plays a gay man in a film should not limit his possibilities or her possibilities at all. It should empower them with those choices. The fact that he went out there and did it, I think everybody in Indian cinema should be proud that he actually pushed the envelope.
But do you think that the gay community within Bollywood is one of the better kept secrets, and they want to keep it a secret because of the laws being what they are in India? Is it just that?
Because you'll be tortured 377 times if you speak about it.
Have you voiced your feelings about Section 377?
Several times in my own way. I mean, we all signed that form, and we've all spoken about, you know, as it being as a hurdle that we need to kind of combat. I really appreciate someone like Shashi Tharoor's endeavors, you know, who from the governance went out there and pushed it, but of course the bill wasn't passed. And it was unfortunate, and I think the endeavor is on, and there is of course a silent force working behind the scenes to make sure that word is out there and that it can be. But you know, we're a third world country with so many problems that this is one of the many problems that people are fighting in their own way.
But do you think if that happens, if the bill gets passed, Bollywood will be a significantly different place? You'll be making significantly different movies. Our movie stars will be more upfront about their preferences. They'll dress differently. Or will they also continue to stay in the closet? I mean,
nothing changes.
The whole community.
I believe, Shobhaa, you can change the way the governance thinks. You can go out there. There's a large section that will kind of go out there and fight for a cause. But what do you do about the man in a house, at the average man in this country whose sensibility is beyond your comprehension? How do you change that? You know, that is what you need to change much more. The grain, the DNA. That father has to understand that his son or his daughter has a preference. That mother has to support that choice. That needs to change more than just a bill in parliament. But till that change doesn't happen, the fabric of our morality doesn't change vis-a-vis that. It doesn't matter what bill you pass and what big dharna you do outside anywhere, till that mental fabric doesn't change. And that's only going to change when there is a certain, the arts definitely have a large impression. When I put out there on film or through a story or narrative that can change a little way that the human mind operates, I think we'll have won a tiny war, but it's a really long stay ahead. I don't blame people for remaining in the closet, because when they get out there, they have to face the world not in its best form. And it's something that I understand completely. And it's your personal choice. If you want to take on the world and the society around you, go out there and do it, and we'll all stand by you, and I'll be proud of your decision. But if you stay in, it's not something I would judge. And especially in the entertainment industry, let me tell you, the most I get shocked and surprised about how narrow-minded so many members of my own industry are.
I'm not surprised at all. We have limited time left, Poonam, Karan, and we can take questions from the audience. I'm sure there are... Do we have a mic?